Ignite the eternal flames beneath the great crucible, gather your sacred geometrical texts, and prepare to witness the most profound financial transmutation in the recorded history of human civilization. Welcome to the Grand Alchemical Laboratory, initiates. The esoteric sigil that has just violently manifested across our primary viewing crystals is designated XRP. Just flashed a major signal. Holders are watching closely, and if you are currently pacing around the uninitiated outer courtyard, agonizing over the mundane, stagnant physical price of $1.44, you are fundamentally failing to understand the divine metaphysical process currently unfolding right before your eyes. The common untrained apprentices are completely paralyzed by the manufactured smoke and mirrors cast by the legacy banking illusionists. They are staring at the bleeding red market charts, feeling the agonizing psychological fatigue of a highly engineered macroeconomic suppression, and willingly throwing their precious digital gold back into the raging fires for mere fractions of a copper penny. But deep within the inner sanctum of the esoteric order, our highly calibrated instruments have just isolated an undeniable, massive structural phenomenon that proves the grand philosopher's stone is already being actively forged. The legacy financial sorcerers have deliberately utilized the perpetual futures markets to cast an artificial stasis spell over the spot price, manufacturing a suffocating illusion of infinite nothingness specifically to exhaust the retail sector. They want the over-leveraged, emotional traders to succumb to the vacuum, break their psychological focus, and surrender their digital properties right before the true transmutation occurs. But the absolute revelation that just flashed on the monitors changes everything entirely. A major signal of institutional accumulation has permanently shattered the containment vessel. Ripple has actively triggered a monumental financial transmutation, violently reshaping the entire base matter of the global economic structure into pure, unadulterated digital energy. You do not survive the brutal, multi-year regulatory purges and the most punishing cryptographic winters, just to abandon your sacred artifacts mere moments from the absolute pinnacle of human wealth generation. The sovereign syndicates are merely waiting for the perfect geopolitical alignment to completely shatter the frozen resistance. Do not let the manufactured stillness of the crucible break your mental discipline. The esoteric intelligence is definitively verified, the energetic pathways are entirely secured, and the absolute silence you are experiencing right now is the terrifying vacuum of sound that occurs milliseconds before the entire paradigm violently shifts. Hold your sacred positions with absolute conviction, because the artificial illusion of the legacy banking system is about to shatter into dust. The grand operation has begun. Let us pivot our esoteric viewing lenses directly toward the hidden, highly classified supply routes traversing the absolute darkest corners of this financial laboratory, because we must forensically expose the exact extraction enchantments being utilized to systematically drain the public market cauldrons entirely dry of their essential liquidity. The corporate financial media is actively deploying heavy acoustic jamming spells, falsely claiming that institutional energy has completely evacuated the digital experiment due to extreme macroeconomic gridlock and the paralyzing fear of regulatory purges. But let me drop a massive reality check directly into your alchemical briefing interface. If you blindly execute the copy and paste survival rituals fed to you by the very mega corporations actively trying to sabotage your grand work, the system will ruthlessly vaporize your oxygen supply and permanently bury your portfolio under the ashes of the old world. We have actively bypassed the public monitors and sliced into the classified energetic streams emanating from the deepest institutional cold storage vaults on the entire planet. A glaring, multi-million-dollar structural anomaly immediately illuminates our offensive terminal with blinding clarity. In the absolute dead of night, while the retail tourists were sleeping in their freezing ignorance, unidentified sovereign whales deployed highly sophisticated algorithmic extraction bots to rapidly accumulate massive stockpiles of physical digital assets. How does an institutional strike force of that magnitude push massive amounts of concentrated fiat-based metals into the digital ecosystem without violently tripping the public exchange alarms and launching the token price into the highest stratosphere? The answer lies in the highly secretive, completely unregulated subterranean energetic chambers known as over-the-counter dark pools. These massive sovereign asset managers are not utilizing the brightly lit public trading interfaces to execute their massive acquisition orders, because doing so would instantly detonate a massive price explosion and permanently destroy their covert accumulation margins. Instead, they are utilizing localized liquidity mercenaries to systematically absorb the discarded tokens of every panicked retail operator who drops their gear under the crushing pressure of the artificial bear market. They are silently hoarding the physical float inside these encrypted dark pool bunkers, mathematically locking away the circulating supply before the massive macroeconomic liquidity wave officially hits the crucible and completely shatters the public exchanges into a million pieces. The dark nodes are draining the market dry, entirely shielded from the public eye. The smartest institutional alchemists are quietly vacuuming up the absolute last remnants of the floating supply, while the amateurs stare at completely dead, manipulated charts. Direct your absolute, unbroken concentration toward the federal regulatory stormfront, currently hovering directly over the Great Laboratory, because the absolute largest geopolitical barrier hindering our final transmutation has just been completely eradicated by a highly coordinated, classified insider maneuver. For years, the civilian population has been fed a continuous stream of corrupted meteorological data packets, led to believe that the United States government had permanently outlawed the integration of this specific decentralized ledger technology. However, the top-secret intelligence we just decrypted completely shatters that manufactured illusion into absolute oblivion. The legacy banking cartels deliberately utilized the public fear of federal prosecution as a massive psychological deterrent to artificially suppress the market valuation, forcing weak-handed retail operators to drop their essential elements out of sheer terror, while the global elites quietly hoarded the physical supply in the deepest shadows. But the absolute shocker that just hit the scrying mirrors changes the entire foundational topography of the grand experiment. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission have executed an unprecedented joint directive, officially and explicitly classifying XRP as a pure digital commodity. This is not a minor bureaucratic patch. This is a massive Category 5 alchemical override that permanently removes the suffocating, highly restrictive label of an unregistered security. The regulatory storm clouds have permanently parted, allowing the divine light to shine through. The massive institutional whales no longer have to operate in the shadows of the dark web. They are openly planting their corporate banners right in the center of the laboratory. Furthermore, our inside operatives on Capitol Hill have confirmed that the highly anticipated legislative network upgrades are actively moving through the highest echelons of the Senate chambers. This impending legislative victory promises to legally cement this commodity status directly into the federal source code, effectively disabling the final alarm systems for trillions of dollars in sidelined institutional capital to flood the global ecosystem. You are witnessing the exact historical moment the global financial syndicate officially deactivated their offensive jamming signals and authorized the total institutional takeover. The institutions engineered the maximum level of regulatory fear to acquire your digital property at a steep wholesale discount, and now they hold the ultimate master key. The regulatory malware that terrified the amateur markets has completely evaporated into thin air, leaving a clear, unobstructed digital highway for massive, multi-billion-dollar capital inflows to completely saturate the network. Do not drop your payload just as the vault doors violently swing open to reveal the absolute pinnacle of the grand design. Expand the operational theater to encompass the entire international esoteric grid, because a master alchemist understands that securing the local transmutation is absolutely useless if you do not possess a flawless, high-velocity distribution mechanism capable of anchoring the entire global financial system to the new foundational bedrock. The legacy messaging system known as SWIFT is actively dying on the operational table, completely corroding under its own archaic friction. And the military-grade operation to replace it is no longer theoretical. It is highly active and ruthlessly efficient. Our international proxy servers have just intercepted critical energetic telemetry, confirming that the enterprise stablecoin infrastructure has violently expanded past the $1.5 billion threshold. This is not a drill. This is the foundational layer of global commodities and securities migrating directly onto this specific decentralized network. But the ultimate weapon in this geopolitical arsenal is the explosive, parabolic scaling of the RLUSD stablecoin deployment itself, acting as the ultimate catalyst. The RLUSD protocol is actively functioning as a massive, unstoppable kinetic burn mechanism deeply embedded within the network's foundational source code. Every single time a multinational megacorporation executes a massive, multi-million-dollar cross-border settlement utilizing this digital framework, a fractional percentage of the native XRP token is automatically incinerated by the network code, permanently erasing it from the historical circulating supply. This is equivalent to our grand experiment mechanically consuming its own base materials to generate infinite, unstoppable upward velocity, leaving absolutely no trace for the legacy banking system to track or weigh us down. The network is systematically incinerating the native supply, while Wall Street desperately attempts to hoard the remaining physical float inside their encrypted offline vaults. This is the exact cryptographic formula for an unprecedented, violent supply shock that aligns perfectly with our ultimate sequence. The sudden violent jumps in on-chain activity you see are the global market algorithms desperately attempting to price in this massive international adoption before the retail sector realizes the absolute perimeter has already been fully breached. Ripple has executed aggressive, highly classified corporate acquisitions, securing unassailable financial services licenses across the European and Asian corridors, guaranteeing total global saturation. The digital replacement is fully operational, and the old fiat architecture is being systematically dismantled line by line. The global payment rails have officially been laid directly into the crucible, and the massive macroeconomic shift nobody expected is actively rewiring the entire planet as we speak. Download the final classified extraction parameters directly into your encrypted survival modules immediately, because identifying the sovereign manipulation and successfully deciphering the deepest secrets of this financial alchemy is entirely useless if you are permanently trapped in the blast zone when the extreme volatility finally strikes and the ultimate transmutation is triggered. We have empirically proven the covert dark pool accumulation by the billion-dollar exchange-traded funds, the explosive utility growth of the kinetic combustion engine, the massive regulatory green light from the highest federal agencies, and the colossal international banking deployments successfully executed through aggressive global corporate acquisitions. So, what is the ultimate mathematical destination of this digital asset when the global liquidity cycle officially peaks, the universal network alignment is finalized, and the algorithmic containment field is permanently shattered? Highly classified macroeconomic risk assessments, continuously refined by elite quantitative strategists at Tier 1 institutions, have established a mathematically grounded baseline target ranging from $8 to a staggering $20 per token for the conclusion of this specific processing cycle. To the uninitiated civilian operator, currently psychologically traumatized by months of agonizing artificial suppression, an $8 projection sounds like impossible utopian science fiction designed merely to generate false hope and trap retail liquidity inside a freezing, failing matrix. But to the elite master alchemist who understands the absolute mathematical certainty of a violently constricting physical supply curve colliding head-on with exponential institutional utility bandwidth, an $8 valuation is merely a highly conservative orbital waypoint on the journey to total structural dominance. However, you cannot successfully navigate this high-stakes digital wealth transition without a ruthlessly disciplined, completely emotionless framework. Human greed, impatience, and panic are the ultimate fatal vulnerabilities when attempting to achieve a clean tactical extraction from a dying financial matrix. I strictly mandate the immediate implementation of an automated execution strategy known as the Thirds Protocol. When the network price violently shatters the historical all-time high resistance parameter of $3.84, you must automatically execute a tactical payload release and sell exactly 33% of your holdings. This unemotional maneuver secures a complete, absolute recovery of your initial fiat capital deployment, instantly transforming the remainder of your digital portfolio into pure, stress-free profit. The secondary operational tranche is programmed to ride the algorithmic liquidity wave toward the ultimate institutional target zone, serving as your primary liberation vehicle out of the fiat system. Secure your private keys, trust the unshakable data, and execute your final extraction protocol flawlessly. We formulate, we extract, we transcend.